You know, when I got to the identity level, I was at the point where I said, I do not like who I am. I don't want to exist this way. Now, some people at that point may do something catastrophic and take their own life. I just reached out my hands like a small child in my heart, and I said, God, give me a way out of this. And it was a week or so after that that I was driving to Tulsa with this gentleman who was a counselor, works with neurolinguistic programming. Since that time, one psychologist had said to me, Robert, it didn't matter what technique he used. You were ready. He could have given you a thump on the arm and said, that'll do it, and it would have been a change process for you. But he did it much more elegantly, though, because he was able to take me back to some anger issues and help me resolve some of those things, which I think in the long term was very greatly helpful to me. The spiritual part is where you psychologically die, and I believe the great creator of the universe takes what's already in your mind and says, okay, I'm going to move things around here a little bit for you. Now you're going to have some new options. Let's see what you'll do with that. Because as free will creatures, I don't think that God just comes and says, okay, I'm going to make you something totally different. I think it's because it was new options. I could have still drank, but I thought, why? Why would I want to keep putting something that to me is a poison in my body? And now my wife, she drinks wine. Since it's been over 20 years since I've drank, I've gone to the liquor store, gotten wine for her. I have wine in the refrigerator. It's been in there for 2 months. It means nothing to me any more than this can of green beans. And that's the miracle of being able to have that mind shift to where you see new options. You know, we all have willpower, and when we think of willpower, and when I think of willpower, I think of, well, I got to go mow the grass. I really don't want to mow the grass right now, or I need to study for this final exam, so I'm going to get in there and do it. Yeah, there are certain things where we need to be self-directed individuals, whether it's something as simple as making our bed or mowing the yard or spending time with our children, if that's something that we feel we need to really dedicate ourselves to. Yes, we use our will, but here's the difference. When you're dealing with an addiction or a compulsion, you're dealing with some habit that you're emotively connected to. And once you get into an emotive connection, that bypasses the conscious. And therefore, it's not a matter of your conscious will, because you'll come up with all kinds of justifications to continue to do it. Well, I think I'm going to drink today because it's raining outside. I've done that. It makes no sense. It's not logical, because it's not coming from the conscious mind. It's coming from the emotive center. So you will find many brilliant people, and I don't put myself in a category of brilliant, but you'll find many brilliant people who have been challenged and are challenged with addictions. So it's not a matter of intelligence or IQ, other than the smarter a person is, the more elaborate justifications they can come up with to continue. So the only willpower that really helps us is when we make decisions that I cannot take care of this on my own. And I'm just going to give it over to a higher power. I'm going to give it over to God. And what does that mean? I think that final process means something different to each individual. Depends on where they are. What if there's someone in China with an addiction? Will they go to their Buddhist monk? Probably, and they'll probably experience a change, because I think God is a God of the universe. Even with exercise, I would feel compelled to exercise from an emotional standpoint, and I would go through withdrawals if I couldn't get to my weight set for 2 or 3 days. I would actually start craving it. I would get nervous, anxious. And the same thing with the religious obsession, only on a little different bend, from the standpoint that I was never worthy enough, so I need to pray more. I need to study more because I'm never worthy enough. And it would be like the higher doses I gave to myself of either the prayer or the study, the more I had to have to even just try to feel good. So it was like a black hole rather than an inner spiritual fulfillment. And of course the alcohol is complex because you have the physiological need, to where the body itself in every cell is, give me some more of this so I can feel normal. Because once you drink to a certain point you don't get high, then you just start feeling normal once you drink. And then if you don't drink, you go into withdrawals, and it's terrible. But that physiological then feeds the psychological to come up with all kinds of justifications for drinking. Well, I really didn't want to drink this week, but my wife made me angry, and I had no choice. I had to drink. In other words, the justification comes in. With food, oh, I love donuts. I can sit down and eat a cake, or like I used to do, get a whole batch of chocolate chip cookies and a half gallon of milk, and watch my favorite TV program at night and just feel so content. And I was so content that I got contented up to 307 pounds and was on my way to dying from diabetes and high blood pressure. So that kind of hits to what you're saying. In other words, it's an emotive connection to whatever that process is that you just repeat and repeat. And you begin to, in a distorted way, you see that process as the solution. I was very much an introvert and very shy, which is really crazy that I would get into the communication field later in life. But you look at people like Johnny Carson, who when he was in a casual cocktail place would go over and pretend to be on the phone so he wouldn't have to talk to other people. We all have little quirks like that, and sometimes it drives us into a field that's almost the opposite of who we are. Because see, if I'm talking with you here, if I'm doing presentations, and I've done seminars with an audience of 1,000 people, that's fine because I'm in control, if you will. But if I'm in a casual setting where there are 5 or 6 people around, my first thoughts tend to be, I bet he's more interesting than I am. You know, I'll just kind of go in a corner and sit back. It's just a different dynamic. So I think one of the interesting things is that I've learned from putting together corporate training programs over the years is that yes, substance abuse sometimes can be a youth problem, like you say, from early school maybe to 35, but issues of anger management, of control issues permeate organizations. And there we're talking about baby boomers who have not come to grips yet with some things that are causing dysfunction in their life. Something as simple as being addicted to watching sports to the exclusion of their children or family. And there becomes an emotive connection to that. You know, don't bother me. Yes, I know that's a problem to you, but just shut up, I'm watching this. And they cut their communication off. And it can create problems just the same as if they were there stone drunk, and creating that same wall of separation. But of course, most people think, I like sports, I couldn't be an addict. I couldn't be addicted to sports. Well, maybe there's a dimension to this whole issue here, and that's what I'm finding with my life. Going through exercise, depressive religious obsession, sure, substance abuse, yeah, but and overeating is a pandemic among baby boomers. It's a pandemic. Overweight and killing ourselves, that's an addiction. And a lot of people over 35 are challenged with that.